All right, let's do it. Time to get a little regal, a little dramatic. We're diving into Shakespeare's Richard II.
Richard II.
But this isn't just a recap, okay?
Mm.
We're going deep. Deeper than those high school spark notes, trust me.
Yeah, this is going to be a deep dive.
Historical intrigue, language that'll make your brain tingle.
Oh, yeah.
And themes, let me tell you, these themes are so relevant, it's almost scary.
Yeah, it's really incredible, really, how relevant.
So buckle up. Let's talk Richard II.
So right off the bat, the thing about Richard II is Shakespeare gives us this king. And he is really a man so out of sync with his own time.
Really?
Like allergic to it, practically. Yeah. We're talking Richard II, ruled from 1377 to 1399, inherits this kingdom, and it's already teetering on the edge of, well, utter chaos. And every single thing he does just throws fuel on the fire.
It's not exactly playing chess, this Richard, huh?
Yeah.
More like checkers. Candyland, even.
Let's just say the man loved the idea of power, the performance of it, more than, the actual messy reality of ruling.
Got it. Big hat, no cattle, as they say.
Imagine that. A king more worried about how elegant his speeches sound than, the fact that people are starving in his streets.
Yeah.
That's Richard II in a nutshell.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a recipe for a long and happy reign. And from what I've read, things don't go so well for our boy.
You could say that again.
So what were the big dominoes, the big events that led to, this royal faceplant?
Okay, so picture this. England at a crossroads. The old feudal system where power is this birthright, untouchable, you're born into it, it's destiny, right? That's all starting to crumble.
Crumble.
Yeah, crumble. And new ways of doing things. Political maneuvering, backstabbing, making alliances, breaking alliances.
Like good stuff.
It's a whole new game. And Richard, he's so busy clinging to this divine right to rule, he doesn't see it coming.
The old God choose me, so back off routine. Doesn't always work out, does it?
Nope, not this time. Which brings us to our boy, Henry Bolingbroke.
Yeah.
Ambitious cousin who, spoiler alert, ends up with the crown.
Right. Bolingbroke. Now, for those of us who maybe haven't cracked open Richard II since, college, what's the Cliff's Notes version? The central conflict, the engine driving this whole Shakespearean train wreck?
You got it. Richard II, at its heart, is this clash, this epic showdown between two guys, two totally opposite ways of seeing the world, two ideas of power.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
You've got Richard, medieval to the core. He believes in this divine right, answers only to God, his word is law, end of story. Then you've got Bolingbroke, the ultimate pragmatist. He's all about you earn your right to rule by your actions, by your leadership, not just because your daddy was king.
Ooh, a real clash of the titans. No wonder Shakespeare decided to write a whole play about it.
Exactly. And from that clash, the whole play ignites. It's a firestorm.
Speaking of history, I know Shakespeare got a lot of his inspiration from Holinshed's Chronicles, right? I mean, he didn't just pull this out of thin air, did he?
Right. Shakespeare, he used Holinshed's work as the foundation. But here's where it gets juicy. Yeah. Juicy. He wasn't afraid to, shall we say, embellish. Compress a timeline here, tweak an event there. Shakespeare, he knew how to spit a good yarn.
So he was like the original historical fiction writer, taking the facts and jazzing them up a bit.
Exactly. And that's what keeps us coming back for more, right?
Yeah.
It's history, but it's also a darn good story.
It makes you wonder what really went down back then and what Shakespeare might have embellished, right? But one thing that always strikes me about Richard II, especially compared to some of his other plays, it's entirely in verse.
It's true. It's unique.
Yeah. Like Shakespeare decided to go full-on poet with this one.
It's interesting you say that. It's not just a stylistic choice. It actually elevates the whole thing.
Elevates it.
Yeah, elevates it.
Yeah.
Because in Richard II, language, it's not just words. It's a character in itself. It's revealing these historical figures' thoughts, their souls almost, in a way that just plain old prose never could.
That's fascinating. So how does that work exactly?
Well, take Richard, for instance. This is a guy who speaks almost exclusively in metaphors. Like Shakespeare went to the metaphor store and Richard just cleaned him out.
So not exactly a get-to-the-point kind of king.
Let's just say subtlety wasn't his strong suit.
More into grand gestures than practical solutions.
You got it. I mean, there's this one scene, Act 3, Rich is just back from Ireland, right? His kingdom is basically falling apart around him.
Stressful.
Understatement. So what does he do? He kneels down, kisses the earth, and launches into this whole speech. Dear Earth, I do salute thee with my hand. As a long-parted mother with her child plays fondly with her tears and smiles in meeting, so weeping, smiling, greet I thee, my earth.
Okay, poetic. I'll give him that.
Beautiful, sure. But also delusional. Like the man's a heartbeat away from losing his throne, and he's worried about sounding like a Shakespearean sonnet.
You can almost picture Bolingbroke in the background like, dude, seriously.
Right. And that's the difference. Bolingbroke. He's all action, straight to the point. While Richard's drowning in poetic imagery, Bolingbroke's rallying his troops with a simple "March on, and mark King Richard such a square, that all the world may read me in his brow."
Wow, talk about a study in contrast. It's like Shakespeare's giving us a masterclass in political communication.
Exactly. And it's not just about their personalities, right? This contrast in how they speak goes back to those core themes of power, legitimacy, all that stuff we were talking about.
So Richard, with his divine right, God's on my side rhetoric, he's stuck in the past, while Bolingbroke's language is all about the future, a new way of doing things.
Nailed it. Richard's trapped in this medieval mindset, but the world's changing around him. And Bolingbroke, he's the sound of that change.
It's amazing how Shakespeare can do that, how he can pack so much meaning into every word choice. It's like each line is doing double, triple duty. But speaking of kings and power and all that, you mentioned this concept earlier, the king's two bodies. I gotta admit, that one's always tripped me up a little.
The king's two bodies. It sounds like something out of Game of Thrones.
Right. Like, does he have a twin we don't know about?
Basically, imagine a king is like two people in one. On the one hand, he's a regular dude, flawed, human, capable of messing up just like the rest of us. That's his body natural.
Okay, makes sense.
But then he's also this other thing, this symbol, this embodiment of the crown, of eternal authority. Like, he is the state, That's the body politic. And that one, it doesn't die, even when the guy wearing the crown does.
Whoa, that's a lot of pressure. So how does this whole two bodies thing actually play out in Richard's story?
Well, think about Richard's whole inner struggle. He believes in his divine right, absolutely. I mean, you hear it in the way he talks, so dramatic, larger than life.
Right, always the poet.
But at the same time, he's riddled with self-doubt. He throws tantrums, he falls apart, he feels the weight of the crown, that body politic crushing him. But he also knows deep down he's not perfect, that his body natural is, well, kind of a mess.
It's like he's at war with himself, and meanwhile, Bolingbroke's over there, cool as a cucumber.
Exactly. And that's why people often call Bolingbroke, a bit Machiavellian in his approach.
Machiavellian, as in the ends justify the means.
Bingo. Remember Machiavelli, that 16th century political philosopher, wrote The Prince?
Oh, right. The one that's like the ultimate guidebook for ruthless rulers.
Exactly. He argued that to be a good ruler, sometimes you got to get your hands dirty, bend the rules, make the tough choices, even if it means, well, stepping on a few necks along the way.
And Bolingbroke, he's got no problem with that.
Not one bit. Shakespeare gives us all these little moments where you see Bolingbroke's Machiavellian side shining through, like the way he plays the victim, this poor banished cousin, when really he's orchestrating this whole coup from the sidelines.
Sneaky.
Oh yeah, he's gathering allies, getting rid of anyone in his way, all while making it look legit. The man knew how to play the game.
So is Bolingbroke the villain of the story? Or just a really good strategist?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And Shakespeare, he's not giving us any easy answers. He wants us to wrestle with these characters, with the gray areas of power and ambition.
It's like he's saying, hey, audience, you decide. Who's right, who's wrong? It's complicated.
Exactly. Richard II isn't some simple morality tale. It's real life, messy and complex in dramatic form.
Speaking of drama, I know this play has had its share of controversy over the years. Didn't it cause a bit of a stir with Queen Elizabeth I?
Oh yeah, let me tell you, Elizabeth I, she did not care for this play. Word on the street is she saw a performance, saw Richard up there losing his crown, and she was like, whoa, 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 that's a little too close to home, folks.
I can only imagine the royal side-eye she gave her advisors. But did it actually get censored? Like, did Shakespeare get in trouble?
It wasn't just her either.
Yeah.
The play got tangled up with all this Elizabethan political drama. Remember the Essex Rebellion? That whole plot to kick Elizabeth off the throne?
Vaguely. Refresh my memory.
So these guys, they wanted to stir up a little pre-revolution hype. And what do they choose to rile up the masses? A little light treasonous entertainment? A performance of Richard II? Not exactly subtle, these guys.
Talk about a PR nightmare. It's amazing how this play, centuries later, still has that power, that ability to, make people nervous.
Oh, for sure. And that's the thing about Richard II. It's not some museum piece. People are still staging it, reinterpreting it, finding new meaning in it.
Well, spill the tea. Tell me more about how modern productions have kept this play, from gathering dust in the Shakespearean vault.
Well, you think about those all-male productions, right?
Right. Back in the day, all the ladies were played by dudes.
Exactly. So you've got this all-male cast, and they're playing out this story of a king losing his power, his masculinity even. Adds a whole other level to it, don't you think?
Definitely. Makes you think about how these ideas of power, vulnerability, they're all intertwined, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's not just the casting. People are staging this play in all sorts of crazy creative ways. Like, I saw one that set the whole thing in, like a modern-day parliament.
Whoa, seriously?
Same power struggle, same backstabbing, but in suits and ties instead of doublets and hose. It's brilliant.
It makes you realize, plus a change, right? The more things change, the more they stay the same. But we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Fiona Shaw. Her performance as Richard. Game changer.
Oh, iconic. A woman playing Richard. Talk about shaking things up. Suddenly you've got this whole new layer about gender roles, how we see power.
Exactly. It's amazing how one play written, over 400 years ago, can still spark those kinds of conversations.
That's Shakespeare for you. He knew how to tap into the timeless stuff.
Yeah.
The things we're still grappling with, even today.
So for all our listeners out there, next time you see a headline, some big political scandal, some CEO getting ousted, think about Richard II. Think about the compromises people make, the slippery slope of power, the thin line between, a good leader and a tyrant. Who knows, Shakespeare might just have some answers, or at least some really thought-provoking questions.